right. I think that's the sound.
It is.
All right. Well, hello. Uh, and I almost said welcome. I guess that's in the Zoom age. I guess that's what you say when someone's kind of in your
Yeah.
house. I don't know, but anyway, no, it's good to be with you tonight. I am joined by David Todd, who wears many hats at St. Richard's, or has worn many hats at St. Richard's, and I'm happy to be with him tonight as part of our conversation series for our God Gives the Growth stewardship campaign for this next year. I'm really excited about tonight's conversation, not just because David's an awesome guy, but also because David's going to share a little bit with us about kind of go through the numbers, kind of crunch the numbers a little bit. It is a stewardship campaign, so we do want to talk about our budget and our plans and our hopes for the next year. But before we get to all of those numbers, I wanted us to pause and to do what we've been doing in some of our other conversations videos and give David a chance to share some of his own story about where he has seen God at work in the life of St. Richard's. But before we even get to that, David, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about your involvement at St. Richard's, what you do, what you have
Hmm.
done, maybe how long you've been a member, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, first off, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me to come talk to you. I think Becky and I have been coming to St. Richard's since 2012. And, I do a lot of different things. I've done a lot of different things over the years. I've been on the executive board of the diocese. That was supposed to be a 3-year stint, but it turned into be 6 years. And, I'm a lector, usually at the 8 a.m. service. I've been the treasurer of St. Richard's. I was that from 2013 to roughly 2016, I believe. And currently I took a little break for a little bit to go to grad school, and I'm currently the chairman of the finance committee. So Rob, the treasurer, and I kind of tag team to help manage the finances. And I led the pumpkin patch for a couple of years. I've did middle school Sunday school for a couple of years with Becky Anderson, and so I'm
Cool.
sure there's other things I can think of, but there's been lots of different things, and they've all been labors of love, and so happy to have been a part of all the things that I've done.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you've
Yeah,
really been in the trenches if you can say you've done middle school, Sunday school with
yeah,
Becky. That's
yeah. It's
that's real ministry. That's real.
yeah. I used to call it. I used to just call it Random Thoughts Sundays because just at that age, there's lots going on, and there's always random comments throughout the class that sometimes have nothing to do with anything that you're talking about, remotely talking about. And it's just, it was always fun.
That's
So,
awesome. That's great. That's
yeah.
great. Well, thank you
Oh,
so much, David. Oh yeah,
one
yeah.
actually, there is one thing that I'm really proud of that I kind of got started with. St. Richard's has supported it through the years, but I also do a camp at Camp Allen every year called Camp Good News.
Oh,
I'm the
cool.
director of it, and it's a camp for kids whose parents are incarcerated. And so,
Wow.
the idea is that they just get a chance to come and be in a safe space and be kids and swim and play games and do all the stuff that goes on at Camp Allen. And I've been doing that since 2014, and I became the director of it last year.
Wow.
So that's one of the most favorite and fun things that I've ever done. And
Yeah.
um, so,
Man, that's awesome. That's really
yeah,
cool. Well,
yeah,
thank you so much, pardon me, for sharing that, and again for being willing to sit down and talk with me tonight. So it seems your experience with St. Richard's is extensive. You've
hmm,
been really involved. You've done a lot, and so you probably have no shortage of stories of places where I would hope anyway. You have no shortage of stories of places where you've seen and felt God's presence
hmm,
in the work and life of the church. But if you could just take a few minutes and maybe share one of those with us, one or two of those
yeah.
places or moments where you felt God's presence at work through the life of the church.
Yeah, I think that there's two quick ones that come to mind, and one is not necessarily directed at within like the walls or life of St. Richard's, but it because I got started with Camp Good News through St. Richard's, that the very first camp that I ever did. Sometimes this can be a challenging camp just because these kids come from different environments and react in different ways to things. And one of the things was there was one of the boys there that he was 11 years old and he was just as grumpy as he could be. But we happened to notice that, he was kind of walking funny and things. And we started just kind of just trying to check in with him and see how things were going. And it turned out that he was just wearing a pair of shoes that were too small for him.
Oh, wow.
And like two sizes too small. So I went to Walmart, drove from Camp Allen into Navasota and bought him a couple of pairs of shoes that would fit.
Mm.
And, it was brought back and, giving him the pair of shoes and just seeing the change in him, just, that one simple little thing, how going from being like a, you know, for lack of a better word, a troublemaker to just a happy boy
Yeah.
because his feet didn't hurt. And, and he was just so thankful. And at the end of the camp, he came up and gave me a hug and just said thank you. And it was one of the most amazing things, like just seeing, just taking a moment to pay attention to something like that, and and getting a chance to respond is absolutely amazing to me.
Mhm.
Um, Another story that comes to mind for me is like there was one year I was working the pumpkin patch, and I don't really, it was several years ago, and I don't remember the circumstances of how it happened, but there was a young man there that he was looking to buy a pumpkin, and we were talking, and he just happened to mention to me that he was having trouble with his wife and his marriage was on the rocks. And,
Mm.
it's not something that usually comes out at the pumpkin patch, but,
Right. Sure.
but,
Yeah.
it was kind of slow. And so I got a chance to spend like an hour with him, just talking to him.
Mm.
And I didn't really, I don't think I offered him any advice because I'm certainly no expert on marriage, but just a chance to listen to him. And then we prayed when he left. And I gave him, I said, one thing that always works really well is, if is just as a simple offering is take this pumpkin back with you.
Mm.
And it's something you and your wife can do together that's neutral.
Mhm.
And, something that y'all can do something together to maybe bond a little bit. But, and he went on his way and I never saw him again. But I felt like that at that moment that, God was right there in the middle of that conversation. I was actually emotionally drained.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, it was really powerful stuff, and I've always thought back to that, and it's one of those things. The theme of this year is God gives the growth, and that's one of those things. I don't know what happened with it, but I hope that the words that came through me from the Spirit, helped heal that marriage, and that they can move on through life together. So
Yeah. Man, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I
yeah.
think I think sometimes we do have a tendency to undervalue the seemingly small things,
Hmm.
and because of that, I think sometimes we become blind to seeing needs out in the world because we're
Hmm.
only looking for the big thing, right? We're
Hmm.
looking for the big need. Um, but both of those, what I loved about both of those stories is they were these moments where your heart and your eyes were opened,
Hmm.
to notice the need in someone's life that may have seemed like in one case, right, it's a pair of shoes that were too small, but were leading to this larger
Hmm.
trouble, right? And by meeting that seemingly small need, it solved a much larger problem. And
Hmm.
again, you don't know. Even if that conversation with that guy was just a balm to his soul in that moment, I mean
Hmm.
that's huge and really crucial. And yeah, we don't know those little seeds that grow into
Hmm.
those larger plants. So that's powerful. Thank you for sharing. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, now I feel like we have to shift gears somewhat to
Right.
get to the numbers part of our conversation. But I wanted to begin by hearing, again, some of your story, and it's
Yeah.
been such a blessing to me to be able to sit down and hear folks share their stories of St. Richard's and the way that the community itself has played
Hmm.
such an incredible role in people's lives. I mean, that's
Hmm.
been kind of a common thread.
Hmm.
People have talked about, Becky Anderson in the first one shared someone inviting her to St. Richard's, and that kind of St. Richard's
Hmm.
becoming the steady place through the ups and downs of her life. Um, and I remember Casey Wade kind of sharing something similar in a sense about when he and his wife moved to Round Rock, and he was like in the process of coming back from being deployed, and like
Hmm.
they were apart, and it was challenging and difficult,
Hmm.
and St. Richard's just really being there for them in this time of
Hmm.
transition in their life. And Justin Nordhausen shared a story about the children's ministries at St. Richard's and how they've been a place where he's sensed God's presence. And so
Hmm.
it's just been a blessing to me to hear all of these ways that St. Richard's has been there in the life
Hmm.
of folks. And so in a way, even though we're switching gears to talking about numbers, we're actually still, I think, talking about the same thing, right? Which
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
just, this is one aspect of the life of our parish
Hmm.
and how it all works and comes together as a community. So anyway, so with that, take it away. Share with us some stuff about
Yeah.
this year's numbers and next year's numbers.
So forgive us for the brief transition here as we share a little bit of things here. But I wanted to, one thing about kind of coming to St. Richard's, one of the biggest things that has for me is that I actually when we first started thinking about coming back to church in 2012 is that my wife and I were looking around. And I actually ended up, because my wife couldn't make it that Sunday, I ended up coming to St. Richard's by myself that Sunday.
Mm,
And I kind of sat in the back, and everybody said hello to me, was very friendly. But on the way out, I said my goodbyes, and on the way out, Stuart had just been starting at that time, and he was like, kind of like almost literally like trotting across the parking lot in all his
yeah.
vestments, and said, "Hey, hang on a minute," and you know it and and we talked for a little bit, but he went all the way across the parking lot to come and introduce himself to me, and that was one of the things that's like really always stuck with me. And then as we started coming to St. Richard's and kind of getting plugged in, is that that's the way it always with everybody, is that people always, and that may be the reason why I ended up doing as much as I did, is because everybody was always so energetic and so like wanting to talk about the things that are going on and what's
Yeah.
happening and all those different things. So that's one of the, all the stories that you kind of briefly shared are always kind of that I really relate to that in our experience, like how we've kind of grown into St. Richard's over the years.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
Cool.
and I couldn't agree more with you about like the finance side is like a lot of times people feel that it leads to there's difficult discussions, and we're always trying to find money and things like that. And it's been true that there's been there's always lean times, and I think that we're everyone is experiencing lean times at some form or fashion in their life right now.
Sure.
But for me, I got asked to join the finance committee in 2013 and started seeing got to see a bigger picture of St. Richard's. And when I
Yeah.
became treasurer, and in the role that I have now, is that I get to see a lot of the stuff that's going on, that everybody's doing.
Hmm.
And it's amazing to see at St. Richard's how much is really going on, and getting a chance to help people to find the resources to do the things that they're passionate about and that God's calling them to do.
Yeah.
And so, absolutely, I forget how many times that the Bible talks about money, especially in the New Testament, but it's discussed quite a bit. And, it's a ministry, and for me, it's a ministry unto itself, because, we're trying to take the resources that are given to us and trying with discernment and conversation, and trying to figure out what God wants us to do with those resources, and then putting them in the right hands.
Hmm.
And so for me, I see God at work all the time, because I get to see all the work that everybody at St. Richard's is doing.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, and with that, I kind of I made a few little just quick things to kind of discuss kind of where we are right now. Um, you know, St. Richard's, we've all seen, if you've been around for a little while, you've seen that the church has grown over the years, and things, giving has gone up over the years too. And then, we were a ship without a captain there in 2019, and the amazing thing to me is that giving stayed pretty steady, even though we didn't have a rector. And a lot of other places, being on the executive board, I've gotten to see a lot of churches that have struggled when they didn't have a rector, and we didn't so much.
Mm.
We had a lot of strong leadership. And then 2020 started off just as strong, and then we landed in the mess that we're in right now.
Mm.
And it's hurt everybody. And you can see that we've gone from 5 years of growth and steadiness to a big drop off. And so for one thing that has been good is that even though it's been a drop off, it still has been, a lot of people have been faithful, and a lot of people have been giving. And that's been inspiring for me to see, because you watch the news and you see all the layoffs and you see all the things that are happening, but people are still giving faithfully. And again, talking to other people, is that there's um, a lot of people that are not in this situation that we've been in, that we've experienced down revenue, but been able to manage expenses, and people, like I said, people have still continued to give faithfully. And one thing I wanted to show right here is that we had a budget that was was reflective of our growth, and then all of a sudden we've lost a bunch of stuff. But we've done a pretty good job of some of this, just because we can't meet in person, couldn't have services for a long time. Some expenses went away, but St. Richard's staff has just done an amazing job of responding to us to help, like, really discern how we're going to use the resources that we had available. And then, the amazing thing for me is that over the years we had built up $130,000 reserves for a rainy day. And every month I was waiting to see that we were going to have to tap into that rainy day fund, and we never did, and we haven't so far. So that's an amazing thing,
That
and
is.
just really, really grateful. And the other thing I wanted to share is that this is kind of like a little scenario analysis of how we're going to end the year. We're pretty far in, and so we have a pretty good picture, and then we can kind of forecast out the last couple of months. And we're probably going to end up at a deficit of $33,000, but it's less than even what we had budgeted. And then, kind of in a worst case scenario, that we'll only be a little bit off of budget. And that's just because, again, the job that the faithfulness that people have had, and the really good job that staff and ministry leaders and our vestry and finance committee, everybody has really worked together to help manage through this and still be able to reach out to people and try to stay connected. So this is one of those things that, like, for me, we've had to do a lot of work, like watching things on a weekly basis and doing things, and it's been a lot of detail work that has done that. But it's also been inspiring to watch us come together and manage through this the best way that we could.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And the final thing I want to talk about, and I think that probably, if you've gotten any kind of literature or looked on the website lately, you may have seen this graph. And this is kind of the preliminary budget that we have going into 2021. And, for what we call operations, which is like the general operations of the church, we're looking at needing, about, a little under $600,000. And then you may also notice this parish hall debt, which we've always kept separate, especially when we're doing construction and going through financing now. But now we're kind of moving it over to the operations side of the church, because there's lots of reasons. One is that it's a critical part of our life now. We've done lots of different things in there. There's Sunday breakfast, there's been events, I came up to the church one day and I had no idea what was going on, and the place was packed full of Christmas decorations for a Christmas bazaar, and there were all kinds of people coming and going.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's so it's kind of a part of our life. And if it's time for us to start thinking about it and as part of our budget, as a part, it's to a separate thing. And so that's why you're seeing this now. And so all together, with the debt, and paying the amazing staff that we have, and doing operations, is that we're looking at about $825,000, kind of broken out how you kind of see in the graph. And this is something that is, like we've done all the way through 2020, is it something that is very nebulous, and it's going to be changing month by month as we go through and look at how things change. I'm sure, Cameron, you've been working a lot on, are we having services outside, inside this week? What's going on? And so there's lots of things that are changing, but this is, how we see things kind of looking out in the middle of the road scenario for 2021. Trying to be really conservative as far as thinking about the needs that we have, but also trying to, also think about the fact that, there is going to be life after COVID. And hopefully that's going to be sooner rather than later. But, I think that, like when Jesus comes back, only the Father knows the answer to that.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. This will obviously, will adapt as we go. Although, we're seeing some, a lot of news this week about successful vaccines and
mhm,
successful trials and all that. So that's really encouraging. And I
mhm,
really think, part of what we need to be doing, and we are trying to do as a staff, but our budget obviously is a big part of this, is to look at this next period of however many months kind of as a runway, right,
Hmm.
for the mission and the work that we want to
Hmm.
do as that vaccine rolls out, as life starts to
Hmm.
transition into another chapter. So it still will be, we're still going to have some bumps along the runway before we take off, but yeah, we're headed right now, as opposed to, I think a lot of folks have felt in 2020 like instead of a runway, we've been kind of heading towards a cliff,
Right.
but
Yeah.
um, but with the news of the vaccine and things like that, I do think we've got to, we can see the end, right? We can
Yeah.
see some light on the horizon, and we really want to make sure that we're in a strong position to to take off, to make sure we can get some wind under the wings and really do some exciting things
Yeah.
in the next year. So
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It's, we have we have the challenges that we have to manage right now, but we also have to still think about the future. And I think for a while, like in early 2020, we all anticipated this thing was going to go away for a little while, and
yeah,
we
yes,
just all we did was hit the pause button, and then here we are now, and that's one of the things that we talked about with in the finance committee 1 or 2 months back, is that we've been crunching, trying to keep expenses down, but at some point we had to make a choice that we this is life normal right now, and
yeah,
we do know that we know that someday there's going to be a an end to it, and we have to start thinking about that too.
yes, yeah,
And so that's what your runway analogy is, the great way is that, so there's kind of like there's two sets of work that we're doing right now. One is like what we're doing right now, but two is also being ready for the day when we all get to go outside and breathe fresh air again together. So
that's right. Yes. Well, the thing we've been talking a lot about on staff is, okay, so yeah, we need to meet the challenge of the moment, but
mhm,
what can we be doing now to start to lay the groundwork, to plant those seeds for the kind of ministry we want to do, not just in, from now till Christmas, but also all the way into the next 5 years, right? Where do we want to see ourselves?
right.
And what can we be doing now to facilitate that in this time that has been uniquely challenging, but there's all those cliches, right, about seeds only grow in the dark, all that sort of stuff. But I do think it's true, right? There are
Mhm.
these times of challenge and trial, and out of them comes a lot of interesting innovation and some certain graces and blessings that
Yeah,
God's still at work. God's still at
yeah.
work.
I have kind of two final thoughts.
Yeah.
We were talking about the theme of God gives the growth, and it occurred to me that I was listening to a gardening show the other day, and they were talking about getting your trees ready for the winter and things like that. And I knew this. I think we all know this, but it didn't really hit me until I heard somebody else say it. Is that trees and plants still grow in the winter,
Yeah. Yes.
and we just don't see it.
Yes. Yeah. That's
And the roots are expanding, and they're getting ready for that spring, when the top part that we can see, which is the smallest part of the plant usually, because the root system is usually much bigger, but
right.
it's and so God's out there still, he's out here still working, growing, asking us to grow the roots, because there's going to come the day when we're going to have to get out, and the plant's going to start growing, and is going to it's going to need those roots to pull up nutrients so that it takes the sunlight and makes food.
Yeah. That's right.
and
Yes.
and the other thing is that having the position of being involved in finance, is that through this, is that I have been amazed the way that our staff has come together and worked together and done things to make things happen, and to stay connected in youth ministry and family ministry, and all the things that go on. And I couldn't have imagined a better staff for you to walk into in a
Mhm.
church.
Yes. Oh man,
And
they've been awesome.
yeah, and I'm sure that that's one of the commitments that we made early on, when we started thinking about where we're going to have to trim things back, is we made the commitment that we would keep staff. And and that would be, that would not happen at all, where you saw other people losing employment through that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the best decisions that we made. And
Yes.
the the staff and ministry leaders are the lifeblood of the church, and I think that's the best decision we made to be ready for whenever we are ready to move forward with whatever the definition of normal is.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Amen. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's so true. A good solid staff, like people can always create a program, but a program doesn't create a person,
Right.
and so a lot of times, parishes will get scared and they'll say, oh, we don't want to cut our program, and no one wants to cut program budget, right? You
Hmm.
need that money to do ministry for sure, but having program budget sitting in a
Hmm.
bank somewhere doesn't make a program happen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but a person
Hmm.
actually doing ministry will create ministry, will create program, and so I just think that was an incredibly wise decision. And as someone who inherited that decision but didn't get a chance to make it, I'm very grateful. So to walk into to just such an excellent staff who just cares so deeply about one another and about the parish and about the
Hmm.
work that they do. So it's important.
Yeah. I know it's just I can't say enough things about all of them and the amazing job they've done. But was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think that's it. It's been great. Thank you so much, and
Mhm.
thank you so much to all those who have tuned in to watch this conversation. There are others like it on our YouTube and Facebook pages. And as always, you can go to strichards.org/give to look at actually some of this information that we went over tonight, as well as some additional information about different ways of giving and things like that.
Mhm.
And yeah, so thank you, David. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it's been great talking with you, and hopefully, you can see everybody soon.
Yes, amen, amen.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Have a
All
great
right,
evening.
you too.